Welcome to the Tech Sharmit podcast, where technology is not just news, but the roadmap to the future. This is a space where we explore the latest tech trends, AI, startups, gadgets, and the ideas that redefine the way we think. Leading this conversation is Amit Sharma, globally recognized as Tech Sharmit. A technologist from Bharat, Amit brings an Indian perspective to the global technology landscape with deep technical expertise and strong industry insight. And for his contributions and impact within the global tech community, he has been recognized with several prestigious honors, including Google Developer Expert, Microsoft MVP, IBM Champion, and Planet Mainframe Influencer. Through this podcast, he shares practical knowledge, real world perspectives, and globally relevant thinking designed to help you stay ahead in an ever evolving technology landscape. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the Tech Sharmit channel to stay updated with future episodes. And if you're looking to level up your skills, don't forget to explore the Tech Sharmit digital course book in the description box, where you'll find thousands of free programming courses curated to help you grow as a developer. So plug in your headphones and join us as we begin today's episode of the Tech Sharmit podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Tech Sharmit podcast. Today I'm joined by another very special guest, Brooke Avery, who is joining us all the way from United States. If I talk about Brooke, then she is a technical program manager with a strong engineering background, an Angular Google developer expert, community organizer, and the host of the Dev Live podcast. So, in today's episode, we will talk about developer experience, the evaluation of Angular, and how engineering can transition into a leadership role effectively. But before we get started and talk about all these things, I would like to thank Brooke for joining us today in this episode. And now I request you to please initiate the discussion by telling us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And we were just joking because it's such a big time difference, but just what an opportunity. So thank you so much. But a little bit of background, I actually come from a teaching and education start. I was a teacher, have a master's in education, but got into education technology from there and then learned more about software development and was instantly just hooked. It was such a creative process, and something that's really important to me is being creative. So fell absolutely in love with front end development and being able to see these websites that I was building. But anyway, after going to boot camp, I didn't jump right into being a software engineer. I actually was introduced by Kent C. Dodds to Joe Eames, who is one of the founders of ngConf.
Okay.
And so I was working with Joe for a number of years, kind of doing a little bit of junior development work with him as well. But what an opportunity, though, because I was instantly dropped into the middle of this Angular world and was around speakers and conferences and events and all of these different opportunities, and it just was so exciting to me.
Mhm.
And I knew I wanted to rise up to the level of these, Angular heroes of sorts. But continued working with Joe for a number of years at ngConf, and then at the time he was also starting a company called Thinkster.io, which is sort of like a plural site.
Okay.
And a lot of what I was doing was using my teaching background to help train course instructors on how to actually and effectively be a teacher. So it was a lot of course content creation, working a lot with these engineers and picking up what they were teaching. I was learning everything they were teaching, so that was fantastic. But yeah, did both of those jobs with Joe for a number of years and then decided to go full time into programming and made that switch, took my first full-time dev job, did that for a handful of years, and then it was actually my most recent company where my manager picked up on how a lot of the things I was just sort of doing on my own were more developer experience related. And he was the one who suggested I consider being a technical program manager. No
Okay.
pressure, he didn't force me into it. It was just like, maybe we should test the waters and see if it's something you are interested in. But if you're not, you can be a full-time engineer. Sure enough, though, I ended up loving it. I'm a people person. I love seeing people grow and really become their best and help them feel like they're important and valued. And that's a lot of what I do as a technical program manager. So, a bit of a windy road there getting to where I am, but it all makes sense looking back and so grateful for all those opportunities.
Yeah. And Brooke, like one thing I found common in IT industry that either the great teacher become a software developer or into a IT industry, or a IT industry become a teacher because they know about the work, like how actually it works, because they know how to
Right.
train the people, right? And they can see
Yeah.
the future, and accordingly they can adopt the modern thing as well. So this is something a common I usually found in all my podcast guests, or also the teachers of the IT professional with whom we talked earlier also. It's a great to know about your
Yeah.
journey,
Yeah.
like how you become a tech expert from a teacher. Those, yeah.
From a teacher. Yep.
Yes. Okay, so now we'll talk about your current designation. Currently, you are serving as a technical program manager. So usually,
Mhm.
like we heard that many technical program manager come from a non-technical background also. So how has your engineering background changed the way you approach towards the program management? Like, was there any benefits of having the engineering background or any other thing that you saw?
Yeah, I think so. And you don't have to be a former software engineer to learn these. I will say that, but I mean, it definitely gave me that empathy of knowing what it
Yes.
feels like to have the deadline and the pressures and all of those parts of being a software engineer. And I think that's really what's made the difference is that empathy.
Correct.
And but I think more than that is helping the engineers. I think engineering is about the how, and program management is really about the why. And
Why?
if I can effectively communicate to the engineers why we're doing a program, why am I asking you to do these on top of all of your normal tasks and getting through your tickets, if I can communicate the why and help them see the value and the purpose in a new program or a new initiative, it really eliminates a lot of the friction or the barriers. It just, but speaking to, I know what it feels like to be in the trenches with you. I understand. Here's our compromise, or here's what we're doing. This is why, and this is how it will help you and help your job. So as soon as I can communicate that, but make sure that they feel heard and listened to, I think is really key as well. It doesn't do any good to just dictate things to people and tell them what they're doing. But if you're truly listening and taking that to heart and finding a way to find a happy place, I think that goes a long ways.
Yeah. And I'm also agree that if you know the technical things, it's better to connect with your team because they are doing some development work, and you as a technical program manager understand their problem also. Accordingly, like you can
Right.
decide the deadlines and work in a collaborative mode, right? So I think this is
Yes.
something that every program manager will agree that yes, if you know about the technical aspects also, then things are easier for you to make an impactful solution for your client as well. So that's a great thing.
Right. And it does help me to kind of be the guardian a little bit of
Yeah.
their work. If they're really heavy into a project or they have just a lot on their shoulders, I'm able to take that back to even upper management
Bye-bye.
and say, this is just not a good time. So
Yes.
I like to fight for their whatever they're expressing, their needs, their concerns. I like to take that back to
Hmm.
management and really, communicate for them, be their mouthpiece.
Correct. And Brooke, like you are also popular in this IT industry as a strong advocate for developer experience. So, what does that world-class developer experience actually look like in practice if we talk about maybe as a GD, how you look at this term world-class developer experience?
It's slightly related to what we were just saying, but like to put more specific words on it, I think that DX, sometimes people confuse it as just the tools that we're using.
Yeah.
Maybe the specific tools that help improve CI/CD or make documentation faster,
Mm.
taking that kind of like getting you into more of a workflow. But I really believe strongly that developer experience is very centered around human needs at the core. If I can really help someone feel heard and support them and make every day, as smooth as possible, that is developer experience. So it's everything from onboarding to from the moment that the team turns on their computers to the moment they close them. What are all of the processes that I can put into place to help that process or to help their day go more smoothly?
Mhm.
But I really think it comes down to, again, like what we were saying, is listening to the human,
Yeah.
finding out what their human needs are, and then supporting that so that they feel heard, they feel like they're growing, and like they're not just kind of a peon. I think it's really critical to create communication where they feel like their voice is important
Yes,
and
right.
they're not just being told what to do, but they're actually part of the process.
Correct. Okay. And I think apart from this, the role of program manager, you are also contributing as a Google developer expert for Angular community. So if we talk about Angular, then what excites you most about the Angular ecosystem right now, like in 2026? What are the things that really excites you about the Angular ecosystem?
Yeah, it's not a brand new thing that we started just this year, but we've continued on with that Angular renaissance.
Hmm.
And to me, this is exciting because, like I said, when I was switching out of education, getting into Angular, I was there at NGConf. I just remember thinking it was a lot. It was a heavy framework, and Angular had and still has in some ways that reputation of being very difficult.
Yes, right.
But as we all know, there's a reason for that. It gives you so much right out of the box. However, I do think that the Angular team has done such an amazing job of really listening to the community and continuing that Renaissance era on. It's just they're making it more approachable and taking out that heaviness from the beginning. And so it's kind of an overall effort, I feel like, with the Renaissance, but really listening to what the developers are saying they need, what they want, and helping it be a just less overhead when you get into it, simplifying it, all of that.
Mm, right. Okay. Okay, so now we'll talk about Angular only, but in a different way, because what I believe, like there are so many features that comes with Angular framework. So as a GD, what you think, like what are the most underrated Angular feature or update maybe that you wish that more developers knew about and the community is not properly utilizing those features or update. So in your opinion, what are those particular features that are underrated?
Well, yeah, so I'm a fan of deferrable views. I just think it's incredibly underrated. It's a declarative way to handle that lazy loading that would otherwise be taking hours of manual work in other frameworks. But it's like to me, it's a perfect example of the Angular team taking a complex performance problem and
Hmm.
making it just a one-liner for a developer. So to me, that's developer experience magic.
Okay. And let's say, Brooke, if someone asks you to advise the students who are about to graduate in 2026 and they wanted to pursue a career as an Angular developer. So, what few things,
Mm.
maybe few do's or don'ts you would suggest for them to go up with the Angular programming? Anything that comes in your mind right now?
Do you know, one of the first things I ever learned when I was first meeting Joe, and back then Aaron Frost as
Mhm.
well, I was at a conference that Joe was putting on that was not NGConf. It was one that he called Framework Summit. But I
Okay.
remember meeting Aaron. He was out in the hall, and this was when Hero Devs was brand new. It was just barely coming out of existence. So he was out in the hall kind of at a sponsor booth, and I remember just talking to him and asking him something very similar to that.
Mhm.
And he said, interestingly, no JavaScript and TypeScript like the back of your hand. The more you understand those absolute fundamentals,
Mhm.
you can't go wrong. So I would
Okay.
just say really double down on those. Make sure you understand those because there's so many times when you feel like, I don't know, you get lost in why something is happening. And I remember
Yes.
seeing this even as a teacher when one of the hardest math classes I ever took in my life was teaching for elementary school teachers.
Okay.
And the reason for that was because it wasn't just 2 + 2 = 4. It was really understanding and being able to explain to a child what a fraction is and
Hmm.
what is really going on when you add 3/4 to 7/8.
Yeah.
How does that actually work? And a lot of people can't actually explain that simply enough to a
Correct.
child. And I feel like it's the same concept with a framework like Angular. If you can't really explain what's going on, take the time to truly understand the very fundamentals
Hmm. Right.
and use your AI agent. Go into Gemini or whatever, Chat GPT, and don't ask it questions. Explain it. Have it take on a persona like it is a brand new junior developer, and you be the one to say, okay, pretending like you're a junior dev, I'm going to explain a concept to you, and I want you to ask questions so that I make sure that I'm explaining this clearly enough. And when you can do that, you'll start to see the holes in your own understanding, and then you can go back and fill those in with, that lack of understanding. So that would be one piece of advice. The other one though, and I can't emphasize this enough, is start now to build your network.
Hmm.
Go
Right.
to the meetups, go to the conferences, get on social media, start following people who have a voice and who have a lot of followers and become part of the conversation. Ask questions, get to know them. There's so many developers who are so willing to
Share it.
answer your questions,
Hmm.
respond back to you. So take advantage of that, but start now. Build your network now.
Yes. Right. And I'm also agree with that point which you just mentioned about the fundamentals. Like if you know the fundamentals, then you can explain it with some real life related examples so that developers or student they can relate it with, right? They can understand, okay, this is something that we can practically do in programming, and also it will help us to build a real world scenarios for the project that you are working upon. So yeah, that's a great thing. And
Absolutely.
also you just shared a great hack for using the AI agents to learn more in a better way. And like in that case, your AI agent will ask you the right question when you are going to explain something, and you can just reverse the mode, and accordingly, like you will get some better prompts or maybe the questions that will help you to understand the topic in a better way.
Absolutely. Yep. Teaching is one of the best ways to learn things. So if
Yes.
you can just turn that agent into a student instead of being your teacher only, yeah, big hack.
Yeah, it's a hack. Okay, so now let's talk about like another way of approaching. Like you just mentioned about one more thing, that is networking, and I'm 100% agree on this. That if you are building your network, one day like it will help you to come up like there you will find so many opportunities to join some meetups, and there you will find that lots of other like-minded people are working together, collaborating together to find something new, to deliver something new to the industry. And I think same thing you also did by creating one community meetup where more than 6,000 plus members were there globally. And I'm sure like growing the community, Angular community, especially to 6,000 plus members globally is not a small feat, right? So what do you
No.
think? Like, what were the key inflection point in that particular growth when you created this community meetup?
Yeah. Well, I have to give credit, first of all, to my friend Eric Slack,
Okay.
who really was the one that came up with the idea. And I was just in the perfect place because I was working at NGConf. And the meetup started as an in-person local Utah meetup. And it was because of COVID that Eric had the idea of saying, hey, let's take this and just turn it into an online thing and anybody can come from anywhere. But I think that's one of the first things you have to have is a team around you who's willing to put in the work it takes.
Mhm.
It is not easy and it will take a lot of time and effort. So there like literally is no other person I can think of at that
Mhm.
time who was the right person to put in that work with me. He was willing, he was eager. Um, so that's fundamental. You have to be willing to put in that time. But I think what made the difference for us was a couple of things. One, well, I guess three really. One was that we were having NGConf help promote the events with their newsletters, we even went on to the first online NGConf and we made the announcement for the meetup. So don't be afraid to ask people to use their platforms to spread the word.
Correct.
I think, if the answer is no, the answer is no,
Yeah.
but you might be surprised at who will say yes.
Right.
So making partnerships, I think, is a big thing and helping promote each other's events and things.
Correct.
Another thing, though, was that we didn't just feature the Angular experts only. And what I mean by that is the people who were already out, maybe sharing courses or who had recognizable names in the industry, but we created a community where we gave the engineers and the everyday developers a voice and a place where they could come and feel heard, they could ask questions, they could give talks themselves. So
Hmm.
we found a balance of finding people who were recognizable, but also letting everyday developers be part of that. They weren't passively watching or listening, they were actively engaged. So
Hmm.
that was critical. Last thing, though, I think was that we took the time, again, this is where you've got to really be willing to put in that time, was making it so that the speakers and the audience alike were getting a white glove experience.
Mhm.
With the speakers, we made sure they had everything they needed beforehand. We touched base with them continually leading up to the event. We, gave them everything they needed. We put social media graphics out that were very, very highly professional. People like that when they feel like
Yes.
they're kind of special. Uh, we were highlighting them all over social media, making sure that they had that special treatment.
Yes.
And then once the event was started, it was that same white glove treatment. But also, I think the attendees were feeling that as well. They felt heard. They felt like it was professional yet casual and fun.
Hmm.
So just really making sure that everybody, like I said, it gets that white glove treatment.
Right. Okay. Okay, so Brooke, like other than as a manager or I would say the Google developer expert, you are also sharing your knowledge through one of the great podcast related to tech community. And so I just wanted to know more about that podcast show, like what prompted you to start the Dev Life podcast and what you love most about the podcasting.
Oh, a lot. So I started podcasting with Joe back when I was with him at NGConf, and he's just someone that loves to talk and share and teach.
Okay.
So he had been a guest on some podcasts before and wanted to start his own, and that was one thing he said, go figure out how to do this. So I figured out, how we were going to go about it. We came up with a plan, and together we started podcasting, but that was a little short-lived. He
Okay.
just got busy with NGConf and other things, but I still loved it. And so what I did was when I was working with Eric for the Angular Community Meetup, we thought, well, let's do our own. And so we did, and we started the Dev Life podcast. We wanted it to be unique though, in that a lot of the podcasts at that time were very technically focused.
Yes.
And I'm someone that believes in a good, healthy mix of the technical discussion, but also the people behind it. And
Mm.
so we wanted to do developer stories. We wanted to do mental health,
Yeah.
soft skills, all these other things that weren't on the other podcasts. And so it was very much a career building podcast and not just technical skills only. Um, but and that kind of answers what I love about it is that I was talking with all of these experts and
Mm.
getting all sorts of advice, and I still do. I love hearing their stories. I think narratives are incredibly powerful,
Correct.
uh, and they help you see how you can improve, what you can do to be better. So I get a lot of personal benefit out of it in a very selfish way, and I love being able to share those stories with the community. So. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is something that is enough to explain that you are a people's person, because like you wanted to hear their story, and also not only in terms of technical things but also about their personal life or the contribution they are making with their journeys throughout their journeys. So it's great to know, and I think this is the best way to know each other, especially in tech communities or into the IT industry, because when we are communicating with each other, we know about the best thing and also the skill set. So whenever there is a need, when you want to adopt such skills, so you can just simply reach out to that person and they will also share their expertise, and you can also contribute in that area. So that's a best
Yeah.
way to do the networking, I think.
That and there have been stories where I've heard people who get laid off or people
Yeah.
who really struggled to learn a certain concept and hearing their stories of how they got over that or how they pushed through it, it really boosts you in those times when you're going through similar things.
Correct.
So,
Okay, and I just want to know one thing about here, about the leadership skill, because you have interviewed, or you did a lots of podcasts also with industry leaders, and you also trained the students. So I just wanted to know one thing, like what's the most important lesson you have learned, or you even tried to impart to the engineers transitioning from student life to the leadership role. So what one lesson you try to impart with the engineers, impart to engineers.
remember the we. I think
Okay.
when a lot of times when people take a leadership position, they start to feel like they have to know all the answers, or there's even sometimes a bit of an ego that comes along with, well, I moved up the ladder and this is my team or my work, my achievement, but I can guarantee you that anybody who's moved into a leadership position did not get there alone.
Right.
And the more that you can remember the people who helped you get there, and also the people that, as a leader, you are a servant to the people on your team. A servant. Like you are serving them and helping them. But a lot of times people forget that. And I think when you become a leader, you need to remember to ask even more questions and, have your team members contribute even more than maybe you would assume. But yeah, I'd say stay humble and remember the we.
Yes, remember the we. And I think this is something that I also personally agree that when you are into a leadership role, there is the entire team who is contributing or helping you to be to adopt that role and to contribute as a manager or maybe CEO or any person. So yeah, it is very important to remember that it's we, not a I, or it's not a personal thing or individual thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now, Brooke, moving ahead, we'll talk about the maker culture because you are passionate about the maker culture. So, what does that term actually mean to you, and why it is so important about this? Why this culture is so important in 2026?
Yeah, I kind of think a common term I hear a lot of people using is more content creation.
Mm-hmm.
So maker culture to me is creating content, but creating content that has value and impact.
Yes,
There's a lot of entertainment and there is a purpose for that, don't get me wrong. But for me, I'm someone when I'm creating things, when I'm making, it's material or content with value and with purpose that helps uplift, that helps teach, educate, these kinds of things. We've mentioned it before. I love creation. I'm someone that's a very core part of who I am is creation. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. When you're making things, you feel more fulfilled, you feel more satisfied in
agree.
life. There's a growth perspective that comes with that. And I think that's really important. So to me, that's what maker culture is kind of tapping into that creative, growing side of you. But making things that other people can use and consume as well.
Correct.
Uh, what am I worried about? Like I think in 2026, AI does threaten that a bit. It
Mm.
was just a few days ago or a couple weeks ago even, Deborah Carrata was posting on social media and she said, "Does anybody even watch videos anymore?" And she's
Mm.
someone that built her career off of making courses and making video tutorials and her
Yes,
YouTube stuff. And I could see her just being a bit concerned about is my content even worth it anymore because people are using AI to answer their questions. And I would argue yes, it is still very valuable.
yes,
Uh, One thing about me is, and I think we've brought this up a number of times, but it's that human touch.
correct.
The more we rely on AI, the more we're forgetting that humans need each other, and we can't just talk to robots and AI all the time. We need to have that human touch
Correct.
where we're hearing their stories. AI is great at giving analogies and making us able to conceptualize things, but it doesn't really share the story or the background context behind things that I think when we become makers, we're imparting that little part of us, that history, that story, that narrative. And that's something that when you're a maker, you can still do, but AI can't do that. So,
Correct.
yeah, I really believe in it. And I think that the humans need it to feel like they are growing and they are contributing.
Yes, I'm 100% agree on this. Like whether it's a software industry or a content creation domain, AI cannot replace humans because after at the end, like you need human presence, whether to create it. Yeah, you can take the help from it, and of course, like it will change the process that we are creating the content now. Later in the later years, also like it will be completely changed. But yes, it will not replace
Yeah,
humans because this is something that needs a human intelligence. I'm also agree on that part regarding the AI that yes, we can use the tools, but at the end, human touch is needed. So,
yeah,
yep,
absolutely.
Brooke, moving forward, I just wanted to know about the support system because we all know that, and you're also a people person, so you know that behind every successful person, there is a support of network. So, in your journey, like who were those key people around you who had a great or defining impact on your journey so far?
I would be very wrong not to first start with my mom. Actually, she was she's always been a very big advocate for education. And I think one of the greatest things I've accomplished in my career was getting my master's degree. So, and it wasn't even related to software development, but I can't tell you how many times having that master's degree has served me in so many ways. So, thank you to mom for promoting that and always making sure I was being educated and, you know, uh, never stop learning. But from there, Joe Eames was monumental in my career. He was someone that took me from transitioning and being in that weird career change phase. And he just didn't care. He believed in me and gave me opportunities to do anything that he needed or that we needed for Thinkster or NG Comp. And he never questioned that I'd be able to get it done. And it was just incredibly empowering at the time. So, Joe, I mentioned Eric, the one that helped start the meetup, and we did the podcast together, but he also was really mentoring me and coaching me on Angular. He took me from that junior developer phase to more advanced. And again, it was just someone who took the time and was selfless with uh, giving of himself, but just believed that I could do it. So Eric, and then now I would say Chris Perko and Matthew Christensen. And these are the two guys who've really helped me a lot with the Angular community meetup.
Okay.
Matt is who I currently do the podcast with, the Dev Life podcast. Just incredibly giving guys, but always supportive. They believe in me fundamentally. They never question, but we're just good partners in everything we do. And I can't tell you enough how grateful I am for their selflessness, their willingness to give time to contribute to the community, and just their friendship. They've kind of seen me go through all sorts of life experiences, and they've just kind of loved me and been a support system for me through all of it. So, yeah, those are the big people. I just want to, say thank you, and I appreciate you, and I love you all. So,
Thanks. Okay. Although, like, Brooke, we have so many things that we can discuss here on this podcast, but we are short on time. So I just want to take one last answer from your end, and it is related to the place you belong from. So we have 1 more minute. So I just wanted to know one best thing about the United States that you feel proud to share with the rest of the world.
mm, I think our resiliency,
Okay.
but that going into the support system that we give each other. So often in history, the Depression, 9/11,
Yeah.
these things happen and Americans rally around each other. And I've seen that with myself. I have not had a 9/11 exactly, but I have been laid off or I've had things happen and the way that we support each other through that and really help one another. I think when it really, we talk about politics and it does get there's friction, there's
Yeah.
contention, but strip all of that away and Americans are just really good at loving and supporting each other and helping each other get through really difficult things. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, thank you so much, Brooke, for joining us today in this episode and for sharing so much information about your work and your journey. It was pleasure talking to you here. So, thank you.
You as well. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the time.